This is Help Me Understand. Welcome back
To Help Me Understand
with
Sean Tucker
and Daniel Schmit. We rehearsed that.
We did a couple times.
We did have a name change, but our podcast, if you're like, what is this podcast about? Well, first of all, it's about many, many topics.
Yep.
It's about, I said yesterday that a very wise professor told me, if you don't like something, it might actually mean you don't understand that thing. And so we seek to grow, the two of us as friends, to understand the things we don't like. And if we find out that someone else doesn't like something, help them understand it, but invite guests on the show who can defend those things and help us understand why we don't like those things.
For sure.
So help me understand. For instance, like if you said,
I don't like churros.
Okay, so then we would have to
just stop the topic right there.
Stop the topic because we've agreed not to be negative. We're going to stay on the positive. And we would have to write it down and then invite someone on the show to defend churros. I actually have someone in my mind who is, when I said I don't understand churros, they got really passionate.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I'm going to write that one down.
Churros is probably, some people really like it.
I don't even know how I spell it. It's going to look like Cheerios, but I think it's close. I'm going to know what it is.
Yeah, you'll get it. You understand. I think there's 2 R's. I think it's the only thing you're off about.
Right.
So
yesterday, you also said, and you said I like every genre of music
except ska.
Except ska.
I just don't get it.
Father Tony, shout out to our one of 3 fans that we have over at Flint Catholic Podcast.
Yep.
Texted me right away. He was our second listener, and he said, "I want to come on your show and talk about ska."
Ska.
And it's great that it's a video. You call it a video cast?
Video cast, yeah.
What's it called?
Podcast.
Podcast, because he's going to demonstrate how to. I'm not even going to give the term. How you're supposed to dance to ska.
Oh, he's gonna dance for us? That's amazing. I love that. That's,
so you're gonna have to watch.
I'm so excited now.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. No. You didn't even mention that.
No,
I'm so excited.
It happened so quick. It was yesterday, but we won't air this until next week. So it's gonna be a weekly episode.
Yep.
Shout out to some of our first listeners. Jason Muxlow, thank you for your feedback.
Indeed.
Ethan Schmidt, my nephew, at Jets Films. He's got like 1,000 subscribers. It's a big deal.
How old is he? He's young, isn't he?
8th grade.
Jeez, wow.
And his younger brother in 6th grade, who's got like 400 subscribers. He's catching crazy. Up. They do stop motion Legos, which I am a huge fan. I'm not just a fan because he's my nephew. I actually watch it for entertainment.
I mean,
my favorite was
I've tried to do that once.
His he redid Yoda versus Dooku in stop motion. It's even better than the original.
Oh, I bet. I bet. I mean, I tried to do that once when I was younger.
Stop motion?
Stop motion Lego. It didn't work.
Did you get any subscribers?
No. I didn't even post it. I didn't like it that much, but he sounds committed.
And then his younger brother is his channel is dedicated to Finn McMissile versus, and then fill in the blank.
Awesome.
This week it was Finn McMissile versus Thanos. Has like 10,000 hits.
Jeez.
I know, right?
That's great. That's awesome.
With their Legos.
All to their own, man.
Yeah,
all to their own.
But I'm a huge fan. Anyway, so he said while he was editing his Lego, he was listening. Raffi listened. Shout out. Thank you for listening. Your entire family.
My entire family listened. It was very interesting. They're like, we were on the porch and I sent them the link. They're like, send this link, and I'm like, we're just all sitting on the porch, and they try to listen to it.
There you go.
I don't like to listen to myself, so I was like, stop playing.
Yeah, no.
So I went inside, and then they all sat on the porch and like listened to it and stuff.
I get it.
So I was
and then another rebuttal is yesterday you talked about true crime podcasts.
True crime podcasts.
And my sister-in-law would love to explain to me with you, help me understand that kind of genre of like crime TV and crime podcasts, because I'm not into it. She's really into it.
Oh yeah.
So I won't say I don't like it, but I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
But later on this episode, we have our first guest,
John Hill.
John Hill, the jazz drummer of Flint.
Jazz drummer.
Talking about jazz.
Talking jazz.
He's addressing a recent comment from our friend Jacob Wenzel, who said, literally said,
I just can't get into jazz, man. I don't get it. It sounds wrong.
And I'm like, we're going to start a podcast just because of that comment.
Just.
And here we are, Jake.
Filling
just
in
for you.
Jake's.
I almost FaceTimed him because it was at 7 in the morning. Because John Hill's here helping us with this VBS week. Oh, by the way, we're broadcasting from a Vacation Bible School week, but that's not the topic of
that is not the topic.
We just happened to be here.
Indeed.
We needed a
location of opportunity.
Yep. But he was here at 7 in the morning. I brought him it was 7:45. I brought him a iced coffee and said, "John, can you put on these headphones and talk to us about jazz?"
Talk to us about podcast. Can you podcast about jazz, please?
But before we air that episode, that segment, I just want to preface, he's very humble, and when I called him a jazz legend, I could see on his face that he didn't want to be called a jazz legend. But
he's just for very well at jazz.
Amazing. And anytime I tell people that I am privileged to play with John Hill, I talk to musicians all over the place in this state, and when they hear that I'm privileged to play with John Hill, they're like, "You get to play with that guy? He's amazing." I'm like, "I know he's amazing. I can't believe he's in our ministry in our church." Ministry. So
I woke up really late, and then you texted me, and I was like, "Yeah, no, not gonna happen."
Yeah,
not happening.
It's like, well, in case you were gonna come early, here's what we're gonna do. No. But
Sean, wake up early in the middle of summer? No thanks.
And yet you're here.
And yet I'm here,
helping
kids.
Yep. So I wanted to ask you.
Yep.
Because you said yesterday about video games. So in our title description today, it'll say jazz, some rebuttals on podcasts, and video games. I'll preface this by I played a lot of video games in high school, and I don't think it was a lot, but I have the kind of personality that if I get into something, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Which is why I had to stop. The moment I graduated high school and I was going to go to college, I was like, I got to do this college thing, and I can't play video games anymore.
Fair enough.
I had to tell myself, no more. And I really haven't re-engaged that other than playing Mario Kart with my kids, which is super fun.
Mario Kart is pretty fun.
Especially now that they can beat me.
It's a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah.
A little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah. But just talk to me about video games.
Video games?
Because I'm in danger of, now that I haven't in a long time, looking a little down on video games.
Yeah, which is fair.
That's one way to live your life. But talk to me about video games.
So, the main appeal for me, it's kind of like music, in a way. It's like, in movies and whatnot, and books, it's all about entertainment and like escaping from reality, kind of. For me, it's just like I go into this world where I'm the main character and I get to just play around, and it's like
what kind of video games are you playing?
I mainly play adventure games, like Skyrim or Elder Scroll games like that, or Far Cry, which is another
and these are big world games.
These are pretty big world games. Yeah, these are some of the biggest games in the world, especially Skyrim.
So is that what you prefer, if you can really explore the world as opposed to just
an open world game is so much fun. It's there's just possibility. I think is one thing. It's like there's so much possibility that it's all up to you. That's another game is like Minecraft. Is why another thing a lot of people play Minecraft is because it's like you build literally anything in Minecraft, which is amazing. It's literally all about creativity and just your imagination, but then put it into a screen that you can play with your buddies and talk about to other people.
Indeed.
So mainly, and then some people say you don't want to play too long on it, which is fair. I think if you have like younger kids or whatever, I think it's definitely based on two things. Number one, what kind of games you're exposing them to, how long you're exposing them.
And this is really helpful because I asked you before we recorded about
this. Like personally, I have a job, so I work normally like during midday to late, so like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So after that, if I'm tired, I'll go to bed. Go to bed. Don't force yourself to play video games. Don't like stay up till 2 a.m. because I used to do that. I used to do that, especially during COVID. I was like, I'll just stay up till like 3, and then have to come into church the next day.
Yeah, you were like so tired. Like, what were you doing? I was like
playing video games.
And I was like, I don't feel sorry for you.
You're like all pity out the window. Gone. And I was like, fair enough.
Yeah.
But so
I was up till 2 taking care of a kid. So,
yeah. Priorities. But so and then I mainly focus like weekends, like especially during school days. Focus on school.
Right.
And then on the weekends, play video games.
Are you a serious student?
Yeah.
I feel like you described yourself as a pretty serious student.
I'm a pretty serious student.
Yeah.
I'm pretty devoted to it for the most part,
That's good.
It's just pretty nice to... But, mainly it's just like finding that balance, definitely. Going between being able to think, then also playing video games. And not really like blending the line, because you don't want to do that. You don't want to like go, I can do my homework while I'm playing Mario Kart, that type of thing.
That would be a bad idea.
But yeah, you just need to know like the best times. You know, like just it's just all about rational thinking, in my opinion. Like that's how I do it. You know, just rationally. It's 7 p.m. on a school night. I still have one more assignment to do. Do I play video games for half an hour, or do I just finish the assignment, play games for another 2 hours, and then go to bed? You know, or do I play till like 2, and then do my homework, and then finish that one assignment, and then go to bed till 6? You know, type of thing. It's just all about, you know, choosing and just being like, video games will always be there in the morning, and I think that's what I have to remind myself a lot is like they'll be there. This homework though is due tomorrow. Like it's due at the end of the week or whatever.
Right.
You know, it's due. But like this video game, it's not going anywhere.
Now, question: does anybody in your life do that for you, or is that just something you have learned to do yourself?
When I was younger, definitely. Like my brother and my dad, you know, used to do it. But you know, now like as you grow older, you have to just kind of realize. Especially personally, my personal lifestyle is like you in 2 years, or you know, in a few years. Not 2. It's like more than that. But anyways, I'll be on my own, you know? Like, and I like to start, you know, I have to rationally think on my own. Because my mom's not going to always be there. You know, older people, like, my family will not always be there to bounce back and tell me that, like, you need to, like, hey, man, it's 6 p.m. You haven't finished your homework. You should go and, you know, you should probably finish your homework, you know? No one will be there for me.
Right.
So, you know, I have to think for myself. And I think that's one thing is like when you're younger, definitely have someone, you know, bounce back on, because that's for growing up. You need like that support system to tell you, like, to help you, to guide you.
Somehow you have to grow into that, because otherwise you might graduate 100%. And then just be like, no, I can just do whatever I want, and then like do that.
That happen.
So telling me it's about balance then.
Yeah, it's all about balance.
And I've been thinking about this recently, because we might add this to the topic today, but everyone has something. Yeah. And I feel like when someone says, I don't know, for instance, when someone says, well, I don't watch TV. Well, it's just everyone's got their thing, and I think everyone then in that time that you have just does something else.
Oh, for sure.
And so for me, something that's big for me in the summer is lawn care. Yeah. Now, I'll preface, I don't have the best lawn. I think I'm a little above average. Okay, if I had more time, it would be great. But I like my lawn just enough to keep it good.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't want it to look bad.
For sure.
But that's my priority. And I care about that, and I'd rather care about that than in the summer watch TV. So I tend to not watch TV in the summer, but you know, some people might look at, you know, me and my neighbor's lawn. My neighbor has the best lawn. I wish I had more time. But some people actually have talked negatively about my experience with the lawn. They're like, it's just a waste of time. And I'm like, everyone's got their thing. I'm just not watching TV right now. I just do the lawn.
I mean, that's what it's all about, you know. Everybody has their thing. I think that's one thing that comes with this podcast, you know. Like, everybody has their thing.
Everyone has their thing.
Why bash on it? Like, why
understand it?
Why like there's no point in my opinion, you know, people who live negatively, there's just no point.
Okay, by saying that, now we got to have someone
who lives negatively.
Because
volunteers,
because I like a positive outlook on life, and I really dislike being critical. And there's some people, though, they really like the critique process. And I think to have an open podcast, we got to be fair to that process. So if you would like to defend being a critic, come on our podcast and we'll talk to you.
Now, is there a difference between critique and critic? Like being a critique and being a critic?
I don't think being a critique is a thing, Sean.
I've heard it in movies. No, I'm just kidding.
Critique? No, a critic is someone who critiques.
I was joking, Dan. I was joking. It was a joke.
Sorry. It was a joke.
It was a joke.
But we are talking about jazz.
Jazz, yep.
And so we'll segue. Let's just, I don't know if there was a segue into that.
Probably not. Just 3, 2, 1.
Go.
Jazz. I don't know.
Okay. So let's see. Well, before I was in college, I was in a jazz combo in high school in a big band, and I went to Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp, and I was in the jazz bands. But I really didn't understand what we were doing. I heard, jazz had a certain rhythm to it, but I really did not. I didn't listen to jazz other than when I was playing it, and so then I got to college and I joined the college jazz band. But the moment, I'll never forget the moment I really went, oh my gosh, I really want to get into jazz. And so I auditioned for Cedar Point live shows, and I ended up playing at the Cedar Point live shows my first summer. And I had a roommate who was an amazing jazz guitarist. His name is David Foster, and I think he's actually a minister now. And so David Foster could sing every melodic note on the Wynton Marsalis Standard Time Volume 1 album. He could sing every note of this album. And I went, that it all makes sense to him. I watched him singing every note, and it's like, this all makes sense to him. I am now intrigued. Like, it was very, and it was because jazz had this certain feeling to it, and this just the way that the musicians blended, the blend of all the complex harmonies and the rhythms were. That album too is just one of the most amazing jazz albums. And so, from that moment, I had my dad's credit card with me at Cedar Point, which is not a great idea, but so I ended up at the records. Back then they had record stores. They had a CD store,
right?
And I bought with my dad's credit card. I bought a Miles Davis box set, of 4 CDs, and it was all just a mixed compilation. Now Miles Davis is one of the great jazz musicians to start with because he played in every era of jazz, starting with bebop. He played in bebop era. He played the cool jazz, and he was on the forefront of all these eras, which really the forefront of a lot of music is some of the best stuff of that era, really.
Right.
And so anyway, so that and that was really the start. Was the Wynton Marsalis album, Standard Time Volume 1, Miles Davis. And it was just like, and then I just immersed myself and just really was fascinated by and I'm a drummer, so the drums actually got to play all these little solos at the end of the song, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. So it was just really, it was intriguing, and that's really how I got into it. And so that was the summer of 1988.
Okay, so if someone was like, because you were talking about what you appreciated more, what you appreciated about it, but talk a little bit more about what the experience is, because you do a lot of it.
Right.
I mean, on a weekly basis.
Oh yeah, on the good years, yeah.
Yeah, on the good years. We're in a COVID year, but we're coming out of that. Have you guys played yet at Soggy Bottom?
We did one little reunion thing at the end. Well, not the end of COVID, but about 2 months ago. We played one night, and it was kind of a one night only. And I don't know if until things get really back to normal, I don't know if we're going to be.
And I just want to specify, before COVID happened, Soggy Bottom Tuesday night, jazz night was legendary. Everyone in Flint was talking about it.
5 years. We were there 5 years.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, I think.
And you had a lot of really good players come through.
Oh, yeah, and they were all coming from Detroit area or Lansing or even Grand Rapids, and they all wanted to come and play. And I think, and I'm glad you're mentioning this, because that music for some reason brought all these people together. And it's there's a certain spirit of it. I think it's a creativity. I think it's a spontaneity. I think a lot of audience members mention they like to watch the players. It's like a sports. It's like watching a basketball game or something, because they're watching the different players interact and hand things off. It's like really.
Right. So how's that different if you walk into like a restaurant or bar setting like that? What makes jazz unique? And I think what you're describing it. There's more interaction.
Yeah. There's a song is very simple. A jazz song is literally maybe a blues is 12 bars. There's a 32 bar song form that we use typically. It's called like the rhythm changes in the song "I Got Rhythm" by George Gershwin, and so we have these very basic musical formats, and then it's up to the artists and the group of musicians to create whatever they can create, knowing the language that makes sense of this jazz tradition.
Right.
And so that's really what brings it all together, and it's fun because every time is different. Every time you play these songs, you're going to bring something a little different to it because of what one of the other musicians played makes you want to play something different, and really, so it's just it's different every time.
Right. Yeah. And you teach jazz too.
Yeah, I've taught many jazz camps, and I've taught jazz for many years. And,
wow.
Yeah.
And what's the when you teach it? What is the where do you start? Let's say you got someone like yourself who is like, I can't really get into jazz, but I'm want to be around musicians. Where do you start?
Right. So starting with obviously listening and finding musicians you already kind of sound like. There are certain drummers that I already kind of play like Jeff. I can't play just like Jeff Hamilton, but I kind of can give that feeling. Or Jeff Hamilton's a great drummer. Ed Thigpen with the Oscar Peterson Trio, and so I'm not a very technical drummer. I can't play a billion notes in a measure, but getting a certain feeling of the music. So I kind of gravitate to drummers that just have a certain swing feeling to the music, and so you gravitate. But it's about listening. It's about bringing yourself to the music a little bit. So you want to find out about some of the musicians and where they've come from, who they've played with, and stuff like that.
Right.
So.
And then something I appreciate about you, John, is that you are also just well versed in other genres too. I mean, a lot of people know that you do jazz, but I mean, you do symphonic playing every once in a while.
Yeah.
How is that different? Playing in symphony settings as a percussionist.
Oh yeah! In fact, I was so excited 2 days ago. The Saginaw Symphony sent me their schedule, and I said, "Okay, which concerts do you want me on?" And they listed over half the concerts. I get to play with the Saginaw Symphony again.
That's amazing.
And I get to play with the Flint Symphony as often as they would like. And so it's really in all those genres, for symphonic music. It's about blending and just incorporating yourself into the whole orchestral sound.
Being a part of that whole.
Yeah, and percussion as a percussionist, the best percussionists know what everyone else, because everyone else is playing their written part. Mm-hmm. What is everyone else playing, and how does my part fit with the trumpets or the low brass or the strings or whoever? And it's just making yourself blend into that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this is just, all of our guests just kind of give us a little taste of the thing that they appreciate, and we're hopefully inspired some of you maybe to check out the genre. But if that jazz night ever comes back, we're gonna let our two listeners know.
Yeah. Come on out, Jacob.
Yeah, I told Jake, and I said this yesterday about classical music. To experience it, it's got to be live.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I teach music appreciation classes at Oxford High School, and I say that daily because we listen to music the whole time. I mean, basically, we're listening to music the whole time. I said there's nothing that replaces live music.
Live music, yeah.
And that's true for jazz too. It's funny because when I listen to a jazz album, now that I've played a lot of live jazz and I experienced a lot of listening to a jazz album is very contrite compared to hearing live jazz.
Yeah.
It's very it's sterilized and everything. Mm-hmm. And there are classic jazz recordings that I love to listen to.
Right, but it was born out of a live setting.
Exactly. And that's really the way it's meant to be heard. Just like symphonic music, I'm sure. It's
one more thing, because this is what really intrigues me about jazz, is I don't know if you can maybe share a story about this, but what I hear from jazz players is they have a huge amount of respect for the older players. Oh, there's a sense of honoring the older generation and kind of not earning your way in, but there's a respect that in a sense of being young, but you have to honor the legends.
It's true. It's a tradition. It's a musical tradition, and in order to be able to communicate at a certain level of jazz, you have to be able to know what the people that have come before you have played, and so there's some. I don't like to use the word homework because it's really fun, but to listen, to have an appreciation for the older musicians, and now I'm one of the older musicians. I have to develop an appreciation for the younger musicians because they are coming up with unbelievable, and YouTube has been such an amazing resource for. So every night the Smalls Jazz Club has a live stream, and every night I go, that's one of the best drummers I've ever heard in my life. And the next night that's the best drummer I ever heard in my life. And the next night, it's a different drummer every night, and they are unbelievable. It's the jazz tradition. I think jazz, the talent and the musicality is exploding right now in jazz.
No, we're still recording.
Yeah, so jazz is, I think jazz is evolving immensely right now. I think it's really because of the global community is exposed to everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, John, for talking jazz with us.
Yeah, thank you, Dan.
I see you all the time, but getting you in front of a microphone was a treat.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so John Hill.
Back from jazz.
Back from jazz.
Back from jazz.
That was a great conversation because our first guest was John Hill.
Indeed.
Makes me so happy. Have you ever seen John Hill play live?
I have not. I hope to one day. I hope to.
I mean, in jazz, you see him play live.
Yeah, I've seen him play
every
all the time.
weekend.
But no, from playing jazz specifically, I've never seen him play.
Yeah.
But
have you ever been around good live jazz?
I don't think I have.
And I think that was Jake's. That's what I said to Jake. I was like, you have to be around good live jazz. I
think that also goes back to what you said yesterday, kind of
about classical music. Good live classical music.
I think, yeah.
COVID. I missed the symphony so bad.
Oh, I'm sure
it was a big part of my life.
I think that's
I could not experience.
Many people that was taken away from them. I think that was a big part.
Many things.
Indeed.
What was something you missed during COVID?
Yeah, it's just like the social aspect, just being able to go out and do stuff. So, and just in general. Just being able to go out and have fun with my buddies, but it's kind of stuck at home.
So as we close, we're just going to tell you again what the future episodes are going to be. We already have. Did we talk about this already?
Which one?
About the future episodes? I'll just say it again.
We'll just recap it.
Kathy's going to talk to us about true crime.
Yep.
Podcasts
and videos
and television.
Yep.
She really likes
Law and Order,
X-Files, SVU.
SVU. Yep.
Steven Anderson's going to talk to us about prequels.
The Star Wars prequels specifically, or just prequels in general?
The Star Wars prequels.
Okay.
Yep. He's a teacher at Powers High School, so he's going to help us with that. Mickey's going to talk about running and baseball.
Yep.
Father Tony's going to talk about ska. Yep.
Ska. That should be fun.
And if you have an idea of something we could talk about that we might not be our cup of tea.
May not.
Like churros. Then you have a invitation onto this
Open
podcast.
Invitation.
I will also say, when I said the reason for this podcast, it's just for us and our friends.
Yeah, indeed.
It's not really an out there podcast. It's more like the people we know having fun with us, talking about things we like.
Of course.
But mostly for our own amusement is why we wanted to do this in the first place.
For sure.
Yeah. So
should be fun. I'm looking forward to more episodes.
Well, we'll see you next week.
We'll
talk about we don't have that in the schedule, but one of those things that I mentioned. Oh no, it'll be Father Tony.
Yep.
Because I've already got him down for a recording session.
When? We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. All right.
No spoilers.
And then we'll do that screenshot high five. 3, 2, 1.